Today's episode is brought to you by Loot Crate, the subscription box for the geek, gamer, and /or nerd in all of us. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items of gamer and pop culture licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/kfgames and enter code KFGames to save $3 on any new subscription. Remember, you only have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, that's it. It's over. So go to lootcrate.com/kfgames and enter code KFGames to save $3 on your new subscription today. All right. So, topic number 3 comes from Reed Boomin. Well, hold on. See, here's the problem with these things. They always have their question, but it's surrounded by a bunch of like notes to us and all this stuff.
Sure.
So I don't even know the context of this because you just copy and paste it in. I should probably erase that before I read these.
Be helpful.
I'm gonna do that. But anyway, my topic is with the 4 main gaming companies /services: Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, aka Steam.
Steam.
Do you guys see a future where any of them merge together or buy each other? And do you think they should? For example, Nintendo publishing games for PlayStation or Steam store on Xbox. Colin?
Yes, right?
I don't merging. No, making games for each other. Sure. I think Nintendo's obviously the most likely culprit to make games for someone else out of that group of 4 individuals. Steam, I think, is so ingenious and makes so much money that there's no reason for them to do anything. I think that if they just like kind of held pat, that they'd be fine. Although I still wonder what the future of PC gaming is ultimately when compared to console gaming as well. I don't know that either of them are necessarily safe. And what I mean by that is that there might be some sort of ubiquitous gaming apparatus in the future, a unified console that is neither necessarily a console nor a PC. That is just something you plug into a TV or plug into a monitor or whatever. So I don't think any of them are necessarily safe from one another. I think people talk about PC gaming as having longer legs, and I think that's probably true. But I think that ultimately, all these guys, if they want to survive in this space, will be making games for one system in the future. I just don't know when. I think people thought that might have even been now, 10 years ago, for instance. Yet we are still in this space, so who the fuck really knows? But Microsoft, I think it's likely that Microsoft sells Xbox at some point. That's been rumored for a long time, and I think that that's entirely possible. Sony makes so much money off of PlayStation compared to what Microsoft makes on Xbox that they kind of need them, although I think it's possible that they spin off eventually as well. And then Nintendo, I think, we'll see what happens with NX, but I think that I don't think it's out of this world at all to consider the fact that they'll probably be making games for those 2 guys if NX fails.
Yeah. I think how it will go down, right? That Nintendo will eventually end up putting games everywhere, becoming Sega 2.0, but being successful at it. Going out and doing that, and then, they're not going to get bought. They're going to still have money in the coffers because they're making money because their developers are making awesome games that work and are super fun to play, and now you can play them on anything. I think the most likely scenario he has in there would be, Xbox doing something with Steam. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. I've never even really thought about that.
Yeah,
I don't know how it would work, though, because just the fact of you need the controller compared to the mouse.
But that's the whole thing with Steam, the Steam boxes and their controller and all that goofy stuff, right? I mean, there is a big picture mode. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibilities to think about there being, how do you compete with Gaikai or whatever, PlayStation now? Not that you really need to anymore because it's nothing. But, in the future, right, when it is better and there's even less latency that, you're using your Xbox 2 to get it, and you have your Steam app, big picture mode app that is connecting to the games you've bought on Steam to play them through here to do this, stream it off or download a little bit and play through it and keep downloading in the background and stuff like that. That could work. It wouldn't be every game, obviously, but there'd be games where it could work and do that. And that would be the thing you would need to, you figure, is like, you see it right now with Windows 10, right? Is like the walls continue to fall down, so Microsoft is just one company, right? And it is one platform and all that stuff. When those barriers are gone, then it hopefully communicates even better with Steam and does give you that PC-like experience if that's what you want. And so that's the thing. The problem there would be if they get spun out, if Xbox does, which you hear the rumor about all the time that people are looking at that. That's a way Microsoft would want to do Xbox.
Well, thinking of stuff that's not likely, but just like hypothesizing on what could happen. If Nintendo were to actually merge with one of the companies, do you think that there'd be a major difference between Nintendo merging with PlayStation or merging with Xbox?
What I mean, in terms of like what the companies would look like? Yeah. I mean, whoever it merged with that'd be fucking insane. and that would be really, really, really hard to overcome. I feel like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it was like we've merged with Xbox, and now on Xbox Live, everything from Virtual Console is up, right? Like that would be insane. And there's Chivos on it and everything like that. In terms of like what it looks like, I assume, right? I mean, I feel like Xbox is such a Western company. That would be the thing, right? Is like they're already so Western versus how so Japanese Nintendo is. Whereas with Sony, I feel like as siloed as Sony is on territory to territory, developer to developer, that they'd pretty much be left alone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's whereas I think Xbox Nintendo would try to make it much more Mario's everywhere on your dashboard or whatever. Like the Chief and him are doing stuff all this left and right.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like if they were to merge with Sony, and I keep talking as if I'm giving Sony's buying Nintendo is how I'm thinking it in my head, right?
Yeah,
but it would be that,
they
would just be another first party developer, and and obviously that's not exactly what it would be, but that's how I feel like they'd be run. You know what I mean? Like from the Nintendo group, here's what we have. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, I mean that would never happen I mean it's all hypothetical. Nintendo is way more valuable than Xbox or PlayStation. So if anyone was gonna merge with anyone else, I think it would be like Xbox and PlayStation merging to survive in a future. But just because Nintendo's IP alone is worth so much more than what PlayStation and Xbox's prolific outputs are. Because of the bad blood between Sony and Nintendo going back a long time, as we've said before, there was no way that they. I find it if Nintendo was going to go third party but do something exclusive, they would actually do it with Xbox. But I think that the future is that they just make games for everybody. But yeah, I mean, just monetarily, it's hard to talk about that even in a hypothetical sense because Nintendo is just really valuable compared to the PlayStation as a brand is very valuable and the Xbox as a brand is very valuable. But I think Nintendo based only on their IP and the fact that when you buy them, they wouldn't turn into a first party studio. They already have like 15 of them, so it'd be like, you're getting a whole. Roster. It's like that's a heavy lift. I'd be super interested to see how that all went down.
How many conversations do you think there's been, Colin? Have there been ever legitimate conversations, you think, between Xbox and Nintendo in terms of getting an exclusive game?
No.
I would love to think that there have been. I would just love to think when Xbox was trying to fucking overthrow the world, they
knock
went
on
there.
the door and they're like, hey, just check. No, okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they had those feelers out there. I think Nintendo would laugh at it.
No, I totally agree with you. I just wonder.
Maybe it's again, as we said so many times, I wouldn't have ever guessed that they would have finally swallowed their pride and went on mobile. So I don't think we're too far off. Especially if NX is a disaster, like Wii U is, then we're not too far off from them putting their games on other consoles, and they should. That's what they should do. They don't make good hardware, and that's fine. That's totally fine. They make great games, and they should focus on that. And not even worry about the hardware anymore. I wish that we were in that future. I think that would be fantastic for gamers, but. We're not in that place yet, and I'm still interested to see what NX is. I think if they can pull a rabbit out of their hat, I think it's totally possible. The rumors, whether substantiated or not about it, don't sound too promising in terms of power anyway. Which is going to be necessary to attract third-party support. It seems like it's just like kind of like Groundhog's Day, But who knows? I'm trying to remain optimistic about NX because we literally don't know anything substantial about it at all. We don't know anything about it other than rumors. So
yeah,
I don't know.
What do you think the difference would be between Nintendo going third party for everybody and Nintendo merging with one of the two straight up?
What do you mean? I mean, the difference would be huge for whoever they did that with.
But I mean, so what do you think it would mean? Not for the companies themselves, but more just for how would the products differ between those things?
I think the digital offerings on whoever netted Nintendo would be huge. Like Greg said, I mean, they just have a huge catalog, hundreds and hundreds of games they can put on those systems, and then they're going to get all their developers. So so you're going to have your Fire Emblems and your Marios.
I mean, it would finally be
what
we're talking about all the time with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One is the fact that there's no diversity between these two consoles. It's the exclusives, and that's it. You know what I mean? And that's why we're always like, well, it would have been really interesting to see Xbox commit to their vision. And we are this entertainment box, and we are Kinect, and we're going to show you why you should love it, right? Because then there would have been parity there. There would have been something different. When you finally, if in this weird world, Nintendo comes in and merges with one of them, then finally there is, I think, hands down a definitive winner. There's a definitive leader. This is why. Which box should I buy? You should buy Sony's Nintendo box. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you should get everything you love from Sony and everything you love from Nintendo in one. You know what I mean? And sure, you're gonna miss exclusives like Halo, or vice versa. You're gonna miss exclusives like Uncharted, but you're gonna get every one of these Nintendo games, classic things you've missed. You're gonna get the brand new Mario, the brand new Metroid eventually. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, I guess the question I'm asking, to put it in a better way, is do you think that Nintendo going third party would mean that you're only getting a few core games everywhere, whereas if they merged, then you would get all the little developers making the different games? Because I if Nintendo were to just go third party, does that mean games like Fire Emblem and F-Zero and I mean, Metroid would probably be safe, but like, there's certain ones that's like they would not be a thing anymore, and all of a sudden, it's like you look at Sega.
I see what you're saying.
Right?
I see what you're saying. I don't know. I don't. I think even third party, you're still getting Fire Emblem. You know what I mean? There's still an audience for that. But it'd probably be a phone game if they're trying to be mobile and stick with what's already working, right? If they're trying to, I think that's what you would see, right? Is that the big exclusives you think about, your Zelda, your Mario, and I'm talking about, the console quality games that they put on Wii U now, right, would go everywhere. And the games you think of for your DS would probably go to the mobile market. Or be, maybe it's mobile and download stuff, you know what I mean? Like, they're downloadable titles, but they'd still be there. I think they'd be if they're going to go that way, they'd be in the PSN drop and the Xbox Live, download thing. I don't think it would be, okay, these are only on phones and these are only there. That's not, they want to make money. They want it as many places as they can get it.
Yeah, I think it's the exact opposite, really. I think that the big games are going to do even better, and the smaller games will have a bigger platform for people to play them because they're not going to be stranded on Nintendo hardware anymore. So, like, I think that it opens up a whole new world of wonder for Metroid and F-Zero and all these things. Like, if you could not strand it on Wii U, but put it on consoles that people actually own and play and engage with on a regular basis, then obviously Mario is going to do even better. But of course, then you're going to be able to open up a reality where an F-Zero game could sell a few million copies, or a Metroid game can sell more than 1 million or 2 million copies. Like, I think that, if anything, it helps the smaller games, and I think that Nintendo just grows from that point. That's why it's so exciting for them to be an Activision almost, not necessarily an annualization, but
that's the thing. There is like, if they went third party, what would that even look like? Because I've always kind of thought in my head just that they'd be much smaller, and they would just be making these games, and they would have more of a schedule of, maybe the 2 games a year or whatever. But to think of them as an Activision where they are doing a whole bunch of shit at once is very interesting.
Yeah, if they went third party, cut out hardware, and kept the status quo otherwise, they would still be putting out 10, 12, 15 games a year. Plus they could be a publisher of games. They can be they would be obviously publishing their own internal games like they do now, but they could be identifying and finding developers to work with, like they have been on Wii U, especially like Platinum, to deal with and publish their games too. Nintendo could be huge, and I feel like the ironic thing is that Nintendo, and I think some Nintendo fans think that Nintendo is best equipped to be a hardware manufacturer, but I actually think Nintendo could be bigger than ever if they weren't. And be like a dominant, if not the dominant force in quality AAA games. But then, unlike Activision, and to a lesser extent, unlike Ubisoft and unlike EA, they would have smaller games too, because I think that that's part of their heritage, and they don't have to charge $50 or $60 for all these games. They can charge $10 or $15 or $20 if they want to release those games on something like Vita, although Vita wouldn't get the games, but something like a mobile platform in the future, or a future handheld. Yeah. I think it's unpredictable. It's an interesting question, because I think the complexion of Nintendo changes radically if they do something like that, and I think we're going to see that, and depending on the fate of NX.
Mm-hmm. Cool.